All right, Jim, thank you very much for answering those questions. Also, thank you so much to Professor Peter Openshaw and also to Professor Tulio de Oliveira. Thank you very much for your expertise and bringing us up to date with what we do know about this new variant. Obviously, lots that we don't know yet, but really good to get that sort of detail from you. Thank you ever so much. And thank you very much to viewers for sending in your questions on this new variant emerging in South Africa. Of course, here on BBC News, we will be keeping you up to date with any developments throughout the day.
Hello, this is Impact. I'm Philippa Thomas. The World Health Organization holds an urgent meeting amid growing concern over a new coronavirus variant discovered in South Africa. Experts say it's the most heavily mutated variant so far.
The virus looks like it will have greater capacity to evade the defences that we've all built up as a result of the vaccinations we've received since the beginning of this year.
The UK puts South Africa and 5 other African countries on a travel red list. France, Germany, Italy and others have also imposed travel restrictions. Also on the programme, diplomatic tensions prompted by the cross-channel migrant crisis intensify. France cancels a key meeting with the British government in protest at a letter released by Boris Johnson.
We do not communicate from one leader to another by tweets and letters on these issues. We don't throw warnings around. Come on.
And the multi-award-winning music producer Nile Rodgers auctions some of his favourite guitars for charity.
If this all works out the way I expect it to work out, that means that I could help like hundreds more kids.
That's all coming up for you here on Impact. Hello, welcome to the programme. The World Health Organization is holding an urgent meeting in Geneva to consider the significance of a rapidly spreading new coronavirus variant in South Africa. But the WHO has warned it will take weeks to establish just how transmissible the variant is and whether vaccines remain effective against it. Germany, Italy and the Netherlands have already joined the British government in introducing travel restrictions on South Africa and neighbouring countries because of concerns about the strain, which scientists have called the most complex and most worrying variant that we've seen. Professor Hibbert, thank you for giving us a kind of some insight there and reminding us of what we know, where we can take hope and where we need to be concerned. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Well, let's take a look now at some of today's other news. A Turkish court has ruled to keep philanthropist Osman Kavala in prison after 4 years in detention without conviction. We told you about this story on yesterday's Impact. Turkey has been under growing international pressure to release him. He faced charges related to anti-government protests in 2013 and a failed coup 3 years later. Rescue workers in Russia say they found a survivor of the coal mine disaster in western Siberia that left more than 50 people dead. They say the man's condition is serious but not critical. The director and 2 other managers have been arrested in connection with Russia's deadliest mining accident in years, and 3 days of mourning are now being observed. France has withdrawn a summit invitation for the UK Home Secretary Priti Patel in a continuing row over the migrant crisis in the English Channel. The move is in response to a very public call from UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson asking France to take back migrants who reach the UK illegally. These tensions follow the deaths of 27 people who tried to cross the Channel on a flimsy boat on Wednesday. Well, while Mr Johnson's spokesman insists the letter was written in a spirit of partnership and the UK remains close friends with France, this was President Emmanuel Macron's reaction. François de Coster, thank you. It's good to hear your voice today.
Thank you.
Well, do stay with us here on Impact. Still to come, why the multi-award winning music producer Nile Rodgers has decided to auction some of his favourite guitars. This is Impact on BBC World News. Welcome back. And let's get you some more now on our top story. The new COVID variant discovered in South Africa. Our Africa correspondent Phumza Filani is in Johannesburg for us. Phumza, it was South African scientists who sequenced this, who did the work to bring it to everybody's attention. What is the public reaction there to news of what could be a really damaging variant? Phumza Filani, thank you for that update, and there is much more, of course, on the BBC website, as well as what we're bringing you here on Impact. Now, what's the link between Sister Sledge, David Bowie and Madonna? Well, aside from being global icons, Nile Rodgers was also behind all of their biggest hits. The songwriter and producer has now decided to auction off some of his most prized possessions to help thousands of teenagers to follow in his footsteps. And he's been talking to our media editor, Amal Rajan. Nile Rodgers there talking to our media editor Amal Rajan, and that auction takes place at Christie's in New York on the 16th of December. Well, we've got lots more coming up for you here on Impact, but I also want to draw your attention to what the BBC has running on the web page. We've got a live page because there's so many new lines coming up on this new COVID variant. Just joining us, here's what you need to know. What cases have been detected so far, what we're hearing out of Southern Africa. There's a lot there. The latest quotes, the latest from the scientists, the world experts that we're interviewing here. So you've got that, but do stay with us. We'll also be looking at the business impact on BBC World News. Hello, this is Impact. I'm Philippa Thomas. Growing concern over the latest variant of the coronavirus, the World Health Organization is meeting urgently. It'll set out the next steps within the next couple of hours. Stock markets across the world fall sharply over fears that a new wave of the virus could endanger economic recovery. And from Beijing, we'll bring you a special report on preparations for the Winter Olympics going ahead despite a COVID surge and allegations of Chinese human rights abuses. That's all coming up for you here on Impact. Welcome back to the programme. The World Health Organization is holding a special meeting in Geneva to consider the significance of a rapidly spreading new coronavirus variant in South Africa. Experts will decide whether it should be designated a variant of concern. But the WHO has warned it will take weeks to establish how transmissible the variant is and whether vaccines remain effective against it. Well, Professor Tulio de Oliveira, director of the Centre for Epidemic Response and Innovation in South Africa, was in that WHO meeting. He came out to tell the BBC News programme Your Questions Answered what took place. Well, the United Nations tourism body has said in the last hour or so countries need to decide today on applying travel restrictions over the emergence of the new variant, as it believes it'll be too late after a week. Germany, Italy and the Netherlands have joined the UK government in introducing urgent travel restrictions on South Africa and neighbouring countries. Other EU countries are considering following suit. So at the moment, all flights to the UK from South Africa, Namibia, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Lesotho and Eswatini have been suspended. More is happening every hour. We're keeping you up to date. But one of the areas where we need to keep you really up to date is obviously what's happening in the markets around the world, all of them feeling the reverberations implications from this new variant. Let's talk about this with our business presenter, Alice Baxter. Alice, I can see you're just getting the latest every minute, but the general picture of market reaction, what is it?
It's tried over the years to move away from that to a greater proliferation of smaller airlines to give the consumer greater choice, but they cannot maintain themselves if they're repeatedly being told to stop flying.
Alice Baxter, thank you. Now, rioting continues for a third day in the Solomon Islands, where international peacekeepers have now been deployed. Reports say thousands of people, some with knives, converged on the Chinatown district of Honiara. The demonstrators want the Prime Minister to resign, accusing him of neglecting some islands and being too close to China. Our Asia-Pacific editor, Michael Bristow, has the latest. Do stay with us here on Impact. Still to come, the South Korean nurseries preparing the next generation for a high-tech future. Welcome back to Impact on BBC World News. With just a few months to go to the Beijing Winter Olympics, China is holding test events for ski and snowboard cross. But despite repeated calls from the Olympic Committee not to politicise the event, some countries are considering boycotting the Games in light of China's human rights violations and the recent concerns over the well-being of Chinese tennis star Peng Shuai. Our China correspondent Stephen McDonnell has been to the venue to see how the country is getting ready for the Olympics despite all the controversy. It's really fascinating. It's the subject of a lot of debate. Eric Morse, thank you for your insights on a story we'll keep covering. Thank you.
Thank you, Philippa.
Now, how can we best prepare for the next generation for a high-tech future? Well, one of the answers comes from kindergartens in South Korea, pint-sized robots that sing, teach, and recite stories. Now, this has caught the imagination of a lot of 3 to 5-year-olds and our own Mark Lobel. Wasn't really expecting that. Just to remind you that we will keep you up to date on what's happening with the new COVID variant, but also look at the BBC website. We have a live page there, just dropped there. Our South Africa correspondent Andrew Harding talking about the impact on South Africa of this discovery. Underneath that, we have an explainer about how the virus has mutated, showing you that new COVID-19 variant. And do stay with us. We'll keep you up to date here too. I'm Philippa Thomas. Thank you for being with us. Hello, this is Impact. I'm Philippa Thomas. The World Health Organization holds an urgent meeting amid growing concern over a new coronavirus strain discovered in South Africa. Experts say it's the most heavily mutated variant so far.
The virus looks like it will have greater capacity to evade the defences that we've all built up as a result of the vaccinations we've received since the beginning of this year.
The UK puts South Africa and 5 other southern African countries on a travel red list. France, Germany, Italy and others have also imposed travel restrictions. Also on the programme, diplomatic tensions prompted by the cross-channel migrant crisis intensify. France cancels a key meeting with the British government in protest at a letter released by Boris Johnson.
We do not communicate from one leader to another by tweets and letters on these issues. We don't throw warnings around. Come on.
And the multi-award-winning music producer Nile Rodgers auctions some of his favourite guitars for charity.
If this all works out the way I expect it to work out, that means that I could help like hundreds more kids.
That's all coming up for you here on Impact. Welcome to the programme. The World Health Organization is holding an urgent meeting in Geneva to consider the significance of a rapidly spreading new coronavirus variant in South Africa. This comes as a growing number of countries are introducing travel restrictions on South Africa and neighbouring states because of concerns about the strain, which scientists have called the most complex and most worrying variant we have seen. It is already spreading to other countries. We've now seen that Belgium has detected the first case in Europe in an unvaccinated person returning from abroad. Professor Martin Hibbert there, and we will take you live when the EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen delivers her news briefing. We are watching for that to begin. In the meantime, another of our big developing stories. The French President Emmanuel Macron has accused the UK of not being serious about dealing with the migrant crisis. European ministers will meet on Sunday to discuss the situation after 27 people drowned on Wednesday trying to get to the UK. But Mr Macron has confirmed that the UK Home Secretary Priti Patel's invitation has been withdrawn. This is in response to the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson publicly calling for France to take back migrants who cross the Channel. Well, here's our political correspondent, Damien Grammaticus.
To explanations of how hard it is to stop the boats, so to speak.
Margaret Khadifa, thank you very much. We have to leave it there. We have breaking news. We're going to take you straight to Brussels, where the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, is holding a news conference about the variant. So news moving very fast now on the new variant of the coronavirus. Well, do stay with us here on Impact. Also to come on the programme, why the multi-award winning music producer Nile Rodgers is auctioning some of his favourite guitars. Welcome back to Impact on BBC World News. Things moving quite fast now on our top story. Let's remind you that the European Commission chief Ursula von der Leyen has just said all air travel to countries with the new variant should be suspended. That variant was discovered in South Africa by South African scientists. I talked about this a little while ago with our correspondent in Johannesburg, Phumza Philani, and asked her about reaction to the new variant there. Phumza Philani there talking about the impact of the South Africa variant story in South Africa. Just to remind you of our rapidly moving story, we have heard from the UN World Tourism Organization saying any restrictions over this variant need to be made, decisions need to be made today. Next week may be too late. And let me refer you as well to the BBC Live webpage on this, being updated almost minute by minute and just breaking, and you can see it there now. The European Commission recommends an emergency break on travel. Ursula von der Leyen saying that's the response that she hopes will help limit the spread of the variant. She's recommended that all air travel to affected countries be suspended and returning travellers should abide by strict quarantine rules. We'll continue to keep you updated pretty much minute by minute on the BBC website and the BBC app, and we'll have more for you on Impact in the hour to come. Alice is next with the business. Stay with us. Hello, this is Impact. I'm Philippa Thomas. The World Health Organization holds an urgent meeting amid growing concern over a new coronavirus strain discovered in South Africa. Experts say it's the most heavily mutated variant so far.
The virus looks like it will have greater capacity to evade the defences that we've all built up as a result of the vaccinations we've received since the beginning of this year.
As Belgium registers its first case, the EU has just recommended air travel with countries that have the new variant should be suspended.
The European Commission has today proposed to member states to activate the emergency brake on travel from countries in southern Africa and other countries affected to limit the spread of the new variant.
Also on the programme, diplomatic tensions prompted by the cross-channel migrant crisis intensify. France cancels a key meeting with the British government in protest at a letter released by Boris Johnson on Twitter. And the multi-award-winning music producer Nile Rodgers auctions some of his favourite guitars for charity.
If this all works out the way I expect it to work out, that means that I could help like hundreds more kids.
That's all coming up for you here on Impact. Welcome to the programme. We start with growing concerns over the emergence of a new strain of COVID-19 in southern Africa. The World Health Organization has been holding an urgent meeting in Geneva, and we're expecting a decision from them soon on whether to declare this a variant of concern. Our other big story today, the French President Emmanuel Macron has accused the UK of not being serious about dealing with the migrant crisis. European ministers will meet on Sunday to discuss the situation after 27 people drowned on Wednesday trying to reach the UK. But Mr Macron confirmed that the UK Home Secretary, Priti Patel, has had her invitation withdrawn. This is in response to UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson's public call for France to take back migrants who get across the Channel. Here's our political correspondent, Damien Grammaticus. Francois de Coster, do stay with us here on Impact. Still to come, why the multi-award-winning music producer Nile Rodgers is auctioning some of his favourite guitars. Welcome back to Impact on BBC World News, reminding you of our developing story. The European Commission chief has said all air travel to countries with the new COVID variant should be suspended. That variant was discovered in South Africa by South African scientists, and I've been talking about it to our correspondent in Johannesburg, Pumza Filani. Songwriter and producer Nile Rodgers has penned hit after hit during his long career, and now he's decided to auction off some of his most prized possessions to help thousands of teenagers follow in his footsteps. He's been talking to our media editor, Amal Rajan. And just time to remind you of our developing story about the new COVID variant. You can also go to the BBC website. We've got a live story there about the EU calling for a travel ban, the human impact of this. There's a list as well of which nations have brought in travel bans so far and which are announcing stricter quarantine measures. So you can stay updated there as well as staying updated here on BBC World News, of course. Well, thank you for watching us today. It's been a pleasure being with you on Impact over the years. Goodbye for now.
Hello there. There is certainly a lot to talk about with Europe at the moment.